What's up, guys? Back with another video. I told you I was going to keep them coming, so I'm keeping them coming. Today we're talking about carbohydrate backloading. Alright? So carb backloading is the idea where you're going to eat a large majority of your carbohydrates at night. It's also called carb night, I think, is Kiefer popularized it. And this video is not a comment on kefir or anything like that. I'm just going to go into the science of carbohydrate backloading. Okay? Now, I have to comment that it's very funny the fashions and the vogue in nutrition, because 10 years ago it was don't eat any carbs after 6 p.m. and now it's eat all your carbs after 6 p.m. So I wonder if it ever occurred to anybody that the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. Anyways, this whole idea of carb backloading is based upon this concept that came around a few years ago called metabolic flexibility. It was mentioned in the literature a little bit. And so metabolic flexibility is the idea that if you, say, eat a high carbohydrate breakfast, that's going to cause an insulin release, and it's going to make you burn less fat throughout the rest. There's a study done where they show that when you had a high carb breakfast, you burn less fat throughout the day, oxidize less fat, and burn more carb. Whereas if you ate a low carb breakfast, you burned more fat and burned less carb. My comment to that is no shit. No shit. Anybody that knows anything about metabolism could tell you that was the case. So we need to keep in mind that the day is 24 hours long, and that if macronutrient intake stays the same, if you eat less carbs at one time, it means you're eating more carbs at another time. Because if metabolic flexibility held true, why ever eat carbohydrate? Because when you eat carbohydrate, you will release insulin and it will blunt fat burning. Not eliminate fat burning, but inhibit or blunt. Okay? I'll give you an example. If I'm eating a total of 250 grams of carbs per day, and I have a low carb breakfast, that means by comparison, my other 3 or 4 meals have to be much higher carb than if I'd had a high carb breakfast. Okay? So, yes, if you eat a low carb breakfast, you will burn more fat after that meal throughout the day. But it also means you have to eat more carbs later, which means that you will burn less fat later in the day and during sleep. The net 24-hour effect of which will be nil, most likely. Okay? Now, to champion this cause, this metabolic flexibility and this idea of carbohydrate backloading, there's basically one study done on police officers, and they had them eat like a 1,300 to 1,500 calorie diet, and either eating 80% of their carbohydrate intake after 6 p.m. or distributing it pretty much evenly. Okay? The findings and what they reported was that the group that ate the carbs after 6 p.m., more of the carbs after 6 p.m., lost more weight. This is an example where it's very important to read the entire study. Yes, they lost more weight. They lost, on average, 11.6 kilograms. The normal diet lost about 10 kilograms. So they lost about 1.6 kilograms more. What they don't tell you, in just from reading the abstract, you abstract scientists out there who like to cherry pick, was that the night carb group started out at an average of 98 kilograms, and the normal carb group started out at 91 kilograms. That means the relative difference and the relative changes between the groups were much smaller, because yes, the group that ate more carbs after dark, or after 6, lost more weight. They also weighed more to begin with. Okay? The group that ate them normally lost less weight. They weighed less to begin with. When you look at the actual percentages lost between the two groups, it's less than 1% between them of their body weight. So the backloading group, as it were, lost 11.8% of their body weight. The normal group lost 10.9%. Less than 1% difference. And my guess is not statistically significant. Okay? That also explains why there was no significant difference in abdominal circumference. Okay? No difference in body fat reduction, which is the real story. So why do we care? So let me get this straight. If they lost more weight, but there was no difference in body fat, doesn't that mean they lost more lean body mass? Now, I don't think they actually did, but my point was, my old advisor used to say, if you torture the data enough, you can get it to say what you would like it to say, okay? And there was no difference in leptin, but there was an increase in adiponectin, okay, in the group that was eating more of their carbs at night. Now, they also saw an improved satiety score in the group eating their carbs at night. And I will say anecdotally, okay, anecdotally, when I eat more of my carbs at night, I feel more satiated, okay? In fact, what I do when I train in the afternoon, I like to train in the afternoon or evenings, personally. I feel like I perform best, I like getting a few meals in me. I do basically carb backloading because I eat most of my carbs at night, but I don't do that because I think nighttime is magic. I'm doing that because it's around my workout. I'm going to better utilize those carbohydrates. I'm going to provide more fuel for my workouts, all those sorts of things. And because I'm going to be improved insulin sensitivity from increased GLUT4 translocation due to working out. So, but I'm not doing that because I feel like there's some magic about nighttime, okay? But I will say that if I work out in the morning and I eat more of my carbs in the morning, I'm definitely hungrier throughout the day. So I'm not saying that carbohydrate backloading for some people has some benefit, okay? Especially if you get improved satiety. What I am saying is that it doesn't seem to affect the thermodynamics of things. That there's not some magical property of eating carbs later at night. Now, again, if it improves your satiety, if you feel like you could be more adherent, then by all means do it. But there's not a difference in fat loss. And the studies bear that out, okay? So what do I recommend for people? Well, like I said, it depends on when you train, okay? Now, some people, anecdotally, don't feel like they do well with really carb-heavy meals before they train. If you're one of those people, then fine. Then don't eat as many carbs before you train. I personally do really great on a high carb intake before I train. Maybe some of that's psychological, maybe it's placebo, it's possible. But either way, I do better that way. I feel better that way, and so that's what I do. Okay? So what I recommend to people is to time their carbohydrates around their workout. However, if you are somebody where you just know that if you work out at 5 a.m. and you eat, 25 to 35% of your carbohydrate intake, which is what I usually do, pre and post workout, and you're famished later in the day and it causes you to go over consistently, then by all means don't do that. Have a carb heavy meal before bed because you're going to store glycogen and it's still going to be available when you go the next day. But I recommend eating as much carbohydrate in that morning as you could tolerate and still feel good. So maybe you throw down a shake and like some fruit or something like that. So the long story is, I think that carbohydrate backloading can have some benefits for some people if it improves your satiety, improves your adherence, and allows you to be more consistent with your diet. But it does not have any kind of magical property whereby it causes you to inherently lose more fat. The literature just simply does not bear that out. So that's my video on carbohydrate backloading. If you guys want more great info like this, go to my website, biolane.com. Also, if you want custom macros as well as macro adjustments, check out my website that I designed, avatarnutrition.com. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.